everybody, and welcome to another episode of the podcast Rise and Tell with Sheekha. I am your host, Sheekha Singh, and today we have with us Michael Hopf. Michael has been compared to Dan Brown. Michael Hopf is a USA Today best-selling author renowned for his post-apocalyptic, dystopian, and Western novels. He has penned over 40 books, including the internationally acclaimed The New World series, and that has sold well over 1 million copies worldwide. It has also been translated into multiple languages. After listening to his story, I was inspired to finally write more pages of my book. He's an amazing mentor. Hop's diverse background includes roles as a bodyguard, commercial driver, a Marine Corps combat veteran. He is the co founder and the managing partner of Beyond the Fray Publishing, and he resides in San Diego. I love how direct and honest Michael was when it came to certain questions that I asked him. He talks about discipline over inspiration. He talks about certain daily habits of what you need to do in order to become a successful writer. It was personally my favorite topic, and I had a lot of fun having Michael on the show. And I hope you will too after listening to this podcast. So let's just get started. Welcome, Michael. We are so excited to have you on the show today.
Well, it's a great joy. Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, I speak for all the readers out there that you are doing a tremendous job with all your books and your publishing houses out there. So, congratulations, first of all.
Thank you
And
very much.
yeah, and let's just dive right in, Michael. What was that turning point in your life where you felt, okay, I really want to focus on writing now, or I want to be a writer?
Well, I was actually in my 40s at the time, so which is a testament for people that think, oh, I'm too old for this. It's too late for me. I don't ever believe that. I really prescribe to the minds to having a mindset that you can accomplish anything, because I think you can. The very first book I ever wrote was a children's illustrated book, and yeah, that's the one that kind of got my juices kind of going as far as like having this idea and then seeing it kind of manifested in my hand as a physical book. So idea, book, here it is. And it was a kind of a legacy project that I did for my two girls. It was kind of like my job. I would be the guy who would go in and read to the girls at night, the big stack of illustrated books on the nightstand. And then of course we'd get done with those books and they wanted more. So, again, being a storyteller, would just tell them stories. And one was about a dog named Kiki and the adventures of Kiki and my daughters and all these things. And so after reading to them and telling them stories one night, I went in and my wife was watching TV and I go, hey, what would you think if I did a children's book, kind of, taking some of these stories about the dog and the girls? And she thought it was a great idea. So I did it. And if you're familiar with children's illustrated books, they're not that long, 600, 700, 800 words, not that long.
Right.
The heavy lifting for them is the illustrations. I didn't do them. I don't have any talent when it comes to that. But I found these wonderful women down in Argentina who did the work, and that again got kind of my creative juices going, because before that I was more geared toward kind of action, physical jobs from Marine, bodyguard,
Right.
entrepreneur, things like that. And this was kind of my really first step into being more creative. And I was shocked by just how much I enjoyed the process.
Nice.
And so when that was done, then being a big reader, I had this revelation that I wanted to write a novel. And the novel, it was I was being that I was reading at the time, I was not finding a specific book that I wanted in the genre I was reading.
Okay.
There was a plot that I was looking for.
Okay.
And I was like, it's just not here. And so then the idea came, it's like, well, if I can't find it, why don't I just write it?
Right.
Okay. And so that's what started that journey. And so I go by Jeff. That's what the G is for, G. Michael Hopf. And so when you look at the children's illustrated book, it's called Jeffrey Hopf. And then when I wrote my first novel, I came up with the pen name G. Michael Hopf because I didn't want the two genres or two things to kind of blur together. Because I'd imagined at the time I would probably write more children's illustrated books. I never did, because I never foresaw my career as a novelist take off like it did. And
Right.
it did. It just went through the roof. And so then I just set about just writing and writing and writing. But yeah, so the whole journey began in my 40s. I think I was 41 when I wrote the Children's Illustrated book, and then I was 43 when my first novel came out. So again, for those
Nice.
listening or watching,
Mhm.
it's never too late to do whatever you want to do in life.
Exactly. 100% true. Michael, what about the journey to being published? You mentioned about idea to book, and I am very curious, how were things when you switched from children's illustration books to the novel? And okay, you got your rough draft manuscript done. What did it take to you to actually get published?
Well, it was quite a journey. One I knew nothing about. Like, God, you talk about somebody I'm a big idea guy. When I get an idea, I will do a little bit of due diligence and I just kind of go running forward and just start doing stuff.
Yep.
And I think I've made mistakes along the way without a doubt. But at the same time, I never stop, or I don't. I've never found myself kind of hamstrung by procrastination. I just
Mhm.
kind of go forward and do things. I think sometimes it's the procrast. I think it's actually, if I were to say, if I were to compare the two, it's actually worse to procrastinate than just to take action and make mistakes. Anyway, so the publishing journey, very interesting. The Children's Illustrated book, it was just a completely self-published deal. I hustled, I got all my money back
Right.
because they're quite expensive to produce because of the illustrations.
Yep.
With the first novel, I had fortunately gotten an agent.
Oh,
I'm
nice.
just very fortunate guy. So I sent it out, and there was a local. I got an agent that was going to represent me. I was like, oh my god, I'm winning. This is my first book. I'm going to get an agent. This is great. I got the agent. Margaret was wonderful. I was working with her, and she was wanting to make some major structural changes to the book,
Okay.
ones that I didn't want to change. And at the time, this was 2000 and when was this? 2012, I think it was.
Okay.
And I was already kind of just naturally, organically like, why don't I find a group of readers, which now we know as ARC readers or beta readers.
Yeah.
So why don't I find a bunch of people outside of my family that can give me a true, objective, kind of, read of the book. Like, what do you think
Feedback.
of it?
Yeah.
And so I found these people, sent it out, and their viewpoints, and they really fit kind of, they were the perfect avatar for my audience, for the demo I was going for. And
Nice.
I sent it out to them. They read it. They loved it. And I was like, okay. But then Margaret was wanting to make some big changes to the book, which would have run afoul to what the beta readers had come back. So I made this very difficult decision at the time that I fired her. And what's interesting is it's already hard enough to get an agent, much less fire one.
Right. Right.
But I just felt like it was like, I operate a lot off of instinct. And my instinct was, listen, if, if this book has any chance of success, it has to be written, one, for myself as the first reader. I think
Correct.
is very important, by the way. And then secondly, there's a group of people. I'm not writing the book for everybody. Don't ever try to do that, because no one will like it then.
Correct.
But you find your audience first as yourself, and then you find the audience, the niche, the genre you want to go and you write. And I just bet that these group of people were a nice cross section of the audience. I was like, loved it. So I bet on them. And so I
Nice.
decided then to go ahead and self-publish this through Amazon, through KDP. And I did that. I hit the publish button in August. No, I'm sorry, in April. And it just sat there, By the way, this one to everybody know, I knew nothing about what I was doing.
Right.
And again, it was kind of early on in the KDP journey. Like, if you were to go on Amazon at the time, there wasn't a lot of books being
Right.
produced at the time. I think that might have been one of the reasons my book kind of went and hit the charts like pretty hot and heavy after 10 days. So after 10 days, it just kind of sat there and was making some sales here and there. I'm like, okay, well, it'll make enough money. I can take my wife to dinner. So there you go. That's great. I wrote a book. Yay. And then on day 10, it just took off, and it wouldn't stop. It just wouldn't stop selling. It's like books were just going, 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 to the point I just knew instinctually. I was like, listen, I can't wait 18 months to release a second,
Yeah.
to a sequel. I need to quit my job. So I went to my wife.
Wow.
So I went to my wife and I go, hey, listen, I need to quit my job so I can get the sequel out. She's like, what? Right. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. But I'm smart. I know my wife well enough. We've been married for 22 years. So I
Yeah.
presented her a spreadsheet. And on the spreadsheet, this is what I
Right.
made last year. And this is what I made this first month. And that first month of book sales was more than I made the year before. And she was like,
Seriously. Wow.
okay, okay, you can quit your job. So I quit my job at the time, and it just went to all the heavy lifting of getting a second book out, because I just felt that there was this opportunity, this door was open, and if I waited 18 months, I would just naturally lose those readers, because there were thousands of people buying the book at the time. And I was like, I'm going to lose them if they have to wait 18 months for a sequel, because I'm nobody. I'm just like a flash in the pan kind of thing. And so I feel like I needed to kind of have a sequel out right away, maybe even be working on a third book. And so I just set about to writing the sequel, and then phone calls started coming in, and from different publishers, small ones. And then was it after month 3, Penguin Random House called me.
Wow.
Yeah. And
What?
they offered a really nice deal for 4 books. They wanted to buy 4 of them. And that's kind of my whole life changed right there. And then I signed with them, and then everything changed. But the journey to publishing, and now because of my journey, and then now the years I've spent doing it, there's really 3 ways of getting published, of taking a book
Right.
and publishing. You can self-publish. We all know how to do that.
Yep.
But if you want to get with a publisher, you have to either, well, I'll step back. So there's 4 ways of having your book published. There's 3 ways of actually having a publisher pick it up, if that's your
Yeah.
dream of having a big publisher do it. That is finding an agent
Mm-hmm.
and then having them represent you.
Yep.
It's very difficult, by the way. You can have a name brand already, so you've already got a large footprint, and then someone's just going to scoop you up anyway.
Yep.
And again, typically the path to that is, again, through an agent. They'll represent you, and then thirdly is the way I got it. It's just self-publish and sell like hotcakes. Because what I found out is, like, the creative director, all the people at the Penguin, they check the charts.
Oh,
They look
nice.
on Amazon. And they
Nice.
go, oh, look at this book. Oh, is it represented? No, it's not represented. Let's pick them up, because it's a win-win for them.
Right.
Like, why wouldn't we sign this person? Because they're already selling X number of books. We don't have to worry about that, because there's a big risk. Now that I own, a couple publishing companies myself, there's a big risk to taking somebody on, because in a traditional publishing sense, you finance the production of the book. So you're all out of pocket. It's a risk.
Correct.
And you're hoping that you can get that money back, at least the production cost back.
Correct.
So when they find someone who's already selling, who's not represented, they just go right for you, and they just want to pick you up, and that tells me too that the publishing houses really are about the bottom line at the end of the day.
Right.
They want to make sure that the book is a seller.
Yeah. So let's talk about your journey from being a writer who was a nobody to now owning 2 publishing houses. How did that happen?
Well, I self-published, and then I got with Penguin, and then I just essentially became a hybrid author, because being with a publisher, specifically like a Penguin, isn't what everyone thinks it is. So
That's what I thought.
yeah, unless you're Stephen King or J.K. Rowling,
That's what I thought.
they're not
Yeah.
going to spend a ton of money on you
Yeah.
to produce your book. They're just not. They're going to give you a very nominal kind of marketing budget, promotional budget. They do have some connections, which is great, that can get you in the door to certain places, and you will get expanded distribution.
Yeah.
So you'll end up finding your book on actual bookshelves, sitting in Barnes and Noble, and at those front tables you'll go in. But those are very coveted spots, and it costs them a lot of money to put your book there.
Right.
And so they want to make sure it's going to be a seller. But outside of that, how do I say this? Being with a publisher is not, it can bring some things you might get otherwise. So let me just kind of roll this back. So because of my history of doing publishing,
Right.
I mean, and self-publishing, and then being with a publisher, I kind of saw this. I kind of saw both sides, and I saw that there was a need for. I'm a big advocate, by the way, of self-publishing, because that's how I got my start. I'm a huge advocate of it, but I do realize there's a certain number of people that won't be able to do that successfully because they don't want to promote their book and
Right.
they don't look at the writing part as a business, and they need to. You need to have kind of the creative hat,
Yeah.
kind of being the artist, so to speak, when you create the book. But then when you're done with the book is a product. And you
Correct.
need to then change your hats from creator, artist to business person. And
Perfect.
then you need to completely focus and have that kind of like that focus. And I found a lot of authors don't know how to do that,
Yeah.
or they even don't want to do that. They feel kind of almost antagonistic to that concept. And the
That's
reality is, the book's just not going to sell unless you treat it like the product that it is. It's a consumable product. And so this is where publishers still have a need. And I was working with Shannon LeGros at the time, who had a very successful podcast, goes Into the Fray. And I presented her with a concept of what I call flipping content.
right.
And this is my business side. This is all my entrepreneurial side. And essentially taking some of her content and flipping it into book form.
Right.
She thought it was a great idea. Her and I produced a book together. Everyone in her space is like, this is amazing. How do I get a book done too? I want to do a book. And so that's what the idea was born for us to
Mm,
create Beyond the Fray Publishing, is because there is a need
right.
for people that, again, they just don't know how to do it. So we decided, so that was in 2019, we started the publishing the house. She had the access to the people that
Yeah.
we wanted. And then I had the know-how on how to produce a book and market it successfully. So that was kind of how that was born.
Great combination. And yeah, you're 100% right because I faced the exact same thing. I had an idea. I actually enrolled in the self-publishing school, which costed a lot back then in 2019. And then they gave me all these resources, but I was so focused into the fact that I just want to be a published writer. I want to get my book done. And so I did the research, got the manuscript edited, everything done, polished, all of it, had a designer ready with the cover page, took headshots, done. And then that's it. 2021 is when I published it. And then Canada had such strict rules with COVID that my plan of marketing that book, the book that I wrote was Why We Need More Women in Tech. And it had a list of 30 plus jobs in IT that do not require coding, and a little bit of my story in there too. So my idea was to go to schools and colleges where, people have no idea of what IT is all about, because they always think, oh, it's so, nerdy, it's for nerds and it's tough and it's complicated. But that's not the case. And I struggled with marketing because it was me alone and I was promoting my book. Most of the days it felt like I'm tooting my own horn, and it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a good feeling. Like, okay, how much am I going to talk about the book? I think at this point everybody on Facebook knows that I'm publishing a book, but that's it. I had no idea. And yeah, you're 100% right. I still struggle with the fact, with marketing aspect of it and the business side of it. All the other stuff great, because I think the ways most of the writer brains work is that, okay, I just want to put my energy on the story, on the like the background, the history, the grammar, whatever it is. But then the minute it comes to, okay, go market your book, go figure out what the cost is, go figure out, Ingram Spark or KDP or whatever it is, that's when everything starts to go down. And like, oh no, but I thought, publishing is easy and self-publishing is just everything happens for you. But yeah, you're absolutely right. So research has shown that a lot of authors are now preferring to self-publish than go the traditional route. Yes, there are some that prefer the big five, but let's say if there are brand new writers who have no idea about self publishing or what amount of work goes into self publishing, what would be the top two things that you would tell them to never forget in their entire journey of self publishing, irrespective of which stage they are at?
Are you talking about just the writing process, or just the overall publishing of it?
Overall publishing of it.
Well, the main thing is the book is that's the product you're selling. That is it at the end of the day. And I often find that people start thinking about, because I coach a lot of writers, they start thinking about how they're going to promote it and they don't even have a book done.
Right.
And the main focus has to be the book.
Right.
So it means the quality has to be there.
Right.
By the way, so you can have all the best marketing in the world. You can have access to email lists. There are a million people. And you can be on TV. But if you can do all the marketing and the book is crap, then all the marketing is wasted.
Yes.
So kind of deconstruct it. So you're trying to sell, what are you trying to sell? A book. So make sure the book is as best it can be. So the main priority is to write, be the storyteller. I tell that forget about everything else. Forget about agents, forget about publishing, forget about covers, forget about editors. You've got to get the book done first.
Right.
And so all of your energy initially has to be just on that. Don't worry about anything else. Put all your energy on being the storyteller and put that down. Whatever, if it's nonfiction or fiction, doesn't matter. Because even nonfiction has a storytelling element to it if you structure it out correctly.
Yeah.
And so be that first. Be the storyteller. In fact, don't even worry about grammar and all that. When your rough draft's going to be messy anyway.
Correct.
I tell people just put it all on the page right then. Get everything in there. Don't like hyper focus that this paragraph has to be perfect. It's a rough draft.
Correct. Don't
worry. Get everything on the page. Complete the rough draft, because what that'll do psychologically is you've completed a book.
Yeah.
You've written the book. It's in a rough format, but you still completed the book. I find people they start out and they fixate on getting this one chapter perfect. I was like, don't do that yet.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Flow, get into that. It's like a flow state when you're writing. Once you get into that, because if you stop that flow state, go back and you start editing, it's like right brain, left brain thing. Correct. You're switching over and you can't do that. You just have to stay in flow all the way till you're completed with that. Yeah. Then you can transition. First I tell people, so write the rough draft. When you're done, put the end, save it, very important. Close your computer and go celebrate. You've written the book. Yeah, that's an incredible accomplishment. Go celebrate. And then the next day, open your computer and then go back to start to begin rewrites. Read through your book, start tweaking it, rewriting it. And then the next step is to make sure you have to get a great editor. Correct. Very important. I was teaching a course some years ago, and I asked everyone got an editor. You have to do in this one. I said, tell me about your editor. So he goes, well, I'm my editor. I'm like, then you don't have an editor. Yeah. No. You don't have an editor. Well, no, I was like, you don't have an editor, because as you'll know, if you read, you can have missing words and your brain will just put that word in there. Exactly. Or you can have misspellings and typos and all these issues, and your mind will just fill in the blanks, and you have to get somebody else in between you and the book to read it. And then for some novels too, really good developmental editors are really crucial. And I always emphasize to people that are writing novels specifically if they're like into the fantasy and that kind of genres like that, very complex whole worlds you're creating. And when you look at the word count for fantasy, they tend to be longer anyway. Yeah. To get a good developmental editor who's also an author. Okay. I think that's very important. I think developmental editors, and I'm sure I'll get some pushback from people. I think the best developmental editors are very good authors themselves. Okay. Got it. They know how to write a story. So they come in later, they're able to read it, and they're able to understand how it should flow, and things like that. I think a developmental editor is very, very important for novels sometimes, specifically if they're very complex plots. Yeah. And then overall editors and proofreaders. So make the book the best it can be, because if your marketing does work, the book has to stand up on its own two legs. Correct. And by the way, that in itself would be its own success, and that will itself then bring on kind of that viral thing, because then people will start talking about it. Oh, I picked up this book, it's amazing. Oh my God, to get it. And then it starts creating this life of its own, if it's a good quality book with a great story. So then when it comes to marketing, I think there's having a podcast is one of the best ways to market yourself as an author and your book. I believe it hands down. I see it all the time. We put our authors at Beyond the Fray on podcast tours, just because they just get great exposure. Nice. And specifically people are doing nonfiction works. If it's on a specific topic, they'll be on certain shows that people have an interest in, whatever the topic is. And then the audience can create a good rapport with the author. And
Correct.
then they like, oh, I like this person. Oh, I like her. She's great. I want to read her book.
Yeah.
And so podcasts are a great resource. I don't think a lot of people get on enough. And then I think just direct marketing on Amazon specifically.
Yeah.
If you're going to spend money, Amazon is, I mean, Amazon is the marketplace where majority of books are sold today. I know a lot of people dump money into like social media. I, for one, think social media can help create a brand and maybe some awareness. But as far as money spent, if you have a fixed amount of money, putting your money on Amazon is because it's the marketplace.
Yeah.
Social media is not a marketplace.
Correct. Spend
When
versus
someone's on
outcome.
social media, they're just scrolling and they
Yeah.
might come across you or your book and they might click through to get to the book,
Yeah.
but that's rare. They're understanding who you are. Oh, that's really cool. They might come back to you. But on Amazon, what are they there to do?
To buy. Yeah.
To buy, because it's a marketplace. And so
Right.
if they're putting in keywords to look for your book, if you've keyworded correctly, very important, by the way, no keywords, no search engine optimization, metadata, very important stuff for marketing your book.
Correct.
Very, very important. Again, Amazon is a massive search engine. So
Yes.
understand that. So once you understand what Amazon is, it's a marketplace and then it's a search engine itself, then you'll know that's where you should be targeting financial resources if you have it for marketing your book. So those are the two places we, as a company, we get people on podcasts and we market like hell on Amazon.
Yeah. I agree with the editor part 100%. I had a mentor when I was writing the first book, and she said, if your editor, whoever you choose to go with, don't cheap out on the editor, one. And
Mm-hmm.
second, if your manuscript isn't given back to you with every line in the paragraph highlighted with one mistake or the other, then you don't have a good editor and it's not helpful. So I remember that tip, and I agree. Having a great editor is very important. Now, what about some people, Michael, that think, oh, I don't think anyone's going to understand my story and I don't want them poking holes in it, or this is my imagination or my worlds that I built. When it comes to sci fi, yes, there are certain rules. Your world has to have certain rules and the way that it functions. If it's a city, then what does a typical day in the town looks like, or what does this person do, how are the houses, where you getting electricity from, etc. When you're building a world, that's how deep you go. But what if someone says, oh, it's just too much, I cannot afford to get an editor now? What advice would you give them?
Well, I'll be very blunt. If you're not gonna get an editor, I don't know what to tell you. Like,
Yeah.
you have to have an editor. Period. I'm not gonna try to make you feel better. The
Yeah.
person might ask that question. It's like you have to have an editor. And by the way, if your book is too complicated for an editor, don't you think it's going to be too complicated for a reader to
Reader.
understand?
Correct.
Like, well, maybe you've got something wrong with your book.
Yeah.
At the end, because I look at it this way too. An author is a storyteller, and what's our main purpose? To entertain.
Correct.
We're there to entertain people. We want people to escape. Nonfiction, we want to educate people. We want to kind of convey a message or whatever that is. But when we're writing a novel, writing fiction, we're there to entertain people.
Yeah.
I don't take myself too serious when it comes to that. Like, that's what I'm there to do. I want people to escape. I want people to pick up my book and then get lost in it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make it so overly complicated. Then that's not relaxing for them. That's not escapism for them. They're like, this is a pain in the ass, and
Yeah.
they're going to sit it down. And that's something too. You got to have a great hook. I can't remember the statistic, but if you don't capture them within a certain number of pages, they're lost.
Yeah.
They're gone. They'll stick your book down and it's gone. And again, so I would just encourage people, don't take yourself so serious and just realize you're there to entertain. That's what you're there to do. I mean, if that doesn't seem like a lofty kind of goal, then I don't, I mean, that's all the great writers have ever been. They're just great entertainers. They're telling really compelling and engaging stories with very interesting characters. And by the way, if you've got a message you want to deliver, I think fiction's the best way to deliver a message, by the way.
Correct.
Whether social change or whatever that is, it's fiction is the best way to deliver it. I was listening to Lee Child, Jack Reacher and all that
Yeah.
fame.
Yeah.
And he said the same exact thing. Lee was like fiction is the best way to deliver a message because how you get they're reading it, so intellectually they're understanding the situation, but what you're really getting them is you're creating that brain heart coherence.
Correct.
And so now they're emotionally engaged with your character that might be dealing with a situation, and therein lies the message you're delivering to them.
Yeah.
And they resonate with that because anyone who reads a book is wants to put themselves in the shoes of the characters,
Correct.
specifically the
Yeah.
protagonist, right?
For sure.
And so if you've got a message to deliver, and you can deliver it very subtly, by the way, but it can be delivered very powerfully.
Yeah.
And so don't overlook that. It's that you can be there to entertain people, be the storyteller, be a wonderful storyteller, but you can also drive some messages home too, and you'll connect with the readers that way. But if to answer that question bluntly, like if you're not going to get, if you're going to waste time getting an editor, then I don't think people should waste their time picking up your book
Correct.
because it's going to be a mess.
100% agreed. And Michael, I know people have compared you to Dan Brown, and that would have been like a great compliment and an achievement. But I want to ask you, what's your secret? How do you manage publishing so many books, but also running two publishing houses and everything else that you do?
Time management is very important. One, I don't look at any of it as a job. It's I have fun. I actually really do have a lot of fun. I have a mentor, and I think mentors are very important for people to have. I think it's important to have a mentor in your life, someone who's older and wiser, who's kind of they're where you're trying to go.
Yeah.
And then there's coaches; those are people kind of in your space, kind of contemporaries, and you can look toward them. Might have some expertise that can help with some things. But I think it's very important to have mentors and coaches. So going back to speak, I was talking with my mentor the first time. Very incredibly successful guy. Like I'm not just dropping things, but like he's a billionaire, so he's very successful, very accomplished guy, and I'm very blessed that he allows me to sit down with him 3 times a year and pick his brain. And one of the first things he ever told me, he asked me a question. He goes, "Are you having fun?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm having the greatest time of my life." He goes, "Good, that's all it's all about. You got to have fun. You got to really enjoy it." So when I'm having fun, then I always find the time
Yeah.
to make sure I can get all these things done and I prioritize these things.
Yeah.
Um, Something that I would give advice for a new author is don't treat your book as a hobby.
Wow.
Treat it like it's a second job when you're trying to write it.
Yeah.
If you treat it like a hobby, then you'll respect it like that. Hobbies kind of now and then maybe, but if it's a job, well, we all respect our jobs and we're going to show up for our job when it's time to clock in, so to speak. We're there. And I got that advice from Stephanie Meyer of Twilight, the Twilight
Yeah.
series.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's very important. It was funny. I never read any of Stephanie's books, but
And it's
they've
really
clearly
nice.
done very well. But like when I like to model other people that have had success and things. So when I was first writing the novel, the end, I was like, "Wait, what are some good things? What should I be doing? How should I do this?" Because I had no idea what I was doing. And when she had the first idea for the very first book of the Twilight series, she's a very busy woman, and
Okay.
so she made sure she did that. She treated it like a second job. She would at night go down and sit, and she dedicated so many hours or so many words to get each night. She would do that.
Wow.
So discipline is
Yeah.
one, and then consistency is very important.
True.
And so I was like, I love that. That's very, very powerful, a very powerful lesson. So respect the book
Yes.
and respect yourself by treating it like giving it the importance of like a job, and you'll get that book done. I guarantee you, if you sit down and you give yourself, I'm going to do 2,000 words a day.
Yeah.
Well, just do the math,
Yeah.
right? If you do 2,000 words a day at the end of month 2, you've got, you got a novel,
Yeah.
probably.
Right.
And so I think that's very, very important to respect it, respect the words, respect the readers. But yeah, I just have fun. Yeah.
True. True. Thank you, Michael. These tips have been amazing, and it's so inspiring to see what you've done, which actually reminds me to ask you, what was one of the biggest challenges that you faced till date, and how did you
Oh.
overcome it?
The biggest challenge. Well, I mean, starting out, I didn't know what I was doing at all. I made some big mistakes. This is why the importance of having an editor. Like I cheaped out on my first editor. I suffered some of the consequences of that. So that's why when I say you have to have an editor, I know you have that same feeling too. I got hit hard, like on some reviews, and rightfully so. And I then had to take a step back and go, okay, I need to take this serious. This is why I talk about respecting the book and respecting your readers. Because to put out a book that isn't professionally, formatted, professionally edited, is a disrespect to your reader.
Correct.
And so that was one of the biggest things I got when I started out. It could have tanked me, but I managed to kind of survive that of having a bad edit, and I putting the book out with a bad edit and a bad format too. It was formatted horribly. But you learn these things, and there's a lot of valuable information people can find on YouTube, or they can. You did a self-publishing course or something like that.
Yes.
By the way, also beware of. There's a lot of predators out there that want to take your money.
Yeah.
Vanity presses.
Yep.
Like I would be to stay away from vanity presses. Maybe you can explain what they are to people, but there's self-publishing and there's great resources for people out there. And then there's traditional publishing houses. And then there's vanity presses that take a lot of money and they really don't deliver a great product at the end. So be wary.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Michael. Is there anything that you would want to tell our listeners or viewers before we end the show?
Yes, and I kind of leave people with this all the time because there might be new writers, someone who's never written a book here, and I kind of touched on it earlier, and it goes back to Ernest Hemingway was being interviewed years ago, and he asked, and this is the advice I give. So, what's the best advice he was asked you would give a new author, and that was just write.
Yeah.
That's it. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't be thinking of publishers. Don't be thinking of editors at the time. I'm telling you, if you don't have a book yet, just sit down in front of a computer and just write. You don't need to go back to school. You don't need a degree in creative writing. Don't set obstacles in front of yourself. I'm not saying you shouldn't always strive to be a better writer and educate yourself on things, but don't let that be the obstacle that stops you from starting. Correct. Just start writing because that's what writers do. I distill things down simply. What does a writer do? They write. That's all you got to do. Just write.
Perfect. And with that note, I am going to thank you so much, Michael, for being on our show. And thank you for taking our time from your busy schedule to give us these amazing tips that all of us, whoever is trying to write a book or is in the business currently, can use and actually implement these. Thanks a lot for being here today with us, Michael.
You're very, very welcome. Thank you for having me.
I had a lot of fun, and I'm hoping you learned something about publishing or writing. You know what you got to do. I really appreciate the fact that you all take out time from your busy schedule and help support me by either listening to or watching the podcast episodes. Your feedback is valuable, so please don't hesitate to reach out. And you know what you got to do. Hit the subscribe button. As always, keep growing, keep glowing, and be yourself. I'm your host, Sheekha Singh, signing off. Bye.